Welcome back to your latest aviation news recap. There is a lot to discuss, including a 3-digit aircraft order. Yes, you heard me correctly. 3-digit Airbus A380 returning to a popular US city. Spirit Airlines announcing a loss and an expansion taking place at a major carrier. Beginning right off the bat with arguably the biggest story, and that is Southwest, announcing a pretty big deal to acquire more 737 MAX jets from Boeing. The major deal is a top-up for the significant American carrier that utilizes the 737 heavily for its day-to-day network. Southwest has committed to 108 737-7 jets as part of the deal. The 737-7, part of the MAX series, is the smallest variant in the family. However, one thing about it is it's currently uncertified, so while these commitments do come through, it is yet to officially be cleared to fly with passengers on board and actually enter into service. It is alongside the 737-10 as the two real variants that have a lot of unknowns surrounding it, but many would argue that the Dash 7 is far closer to eventual entry into service than the Dash 10. Southwest has grown its commitment to the 737-7 as part of the deal, with now close to 200 orders, alongside over 150 for the Dash 8. Many would say this is the perfect middle ground. While studying future aircraft to power its fleet, Southwest had been speculated to be entertaining offers from Airbus at one point. This is something you may recall if you've been keeping up with the industry in recent years, but if you haven't, never fear, because such a possible deal could have included the Airbus A380, which was being put forward alongside the 737 MAX as a potential option for future fleets. Ultimately, Southwest stuck with what was familiar to them and selected the Boeing-powered aircraft in the end. The newest top-up of 108 additional units is a vote of confidence to the series and also the plane maker that'll now see its backlog for the popular narrowbody extend even further. While yes, it remains uncertified, this variant is what Southwest believes to be hugely important for their long-term fleet plans. Additionally, the aircraft should be crucial in modernizing the fleet in the coming decades. Moving towards a single fleet is really what is the best possible solution they believe they can achieve. Thus, Southwest seemingly, yes, did entertain an offer from Airbus to acquire the A380, but in the end stuck with the popular 737 series, of which they operate 813 in-service aircraft across that 737 family, the MAX making up a significant portion that is only expected to grow with time. Over at Spirit Airlines, another low-cost carrier within the United States, things are looking a little bit bleaker, with the company reporting an operating loss of USD 189 million for the third quarter, which is a substantial increase from the same quarter 1 year prior. Spirit Airlines says a disappointing outcome was recorded for the third quarter after seeing softer demand for their product and discounted fares in specific markets too. Overall, the net loss for the quarter came in at 158 million, with operating revenue declining by 6.3% year on year. As expenses continue to grow, this was a real struggle area for the company. Aside from the financial performance, Spirit Airlines says overall capacity grew over the 2022 performance, but the load factor fell by almost 2%. Spirit Airlines, it must be noted, is one of the many airlines that is currently being impacted by the ongoing engine crisis affecting Pratt & Whitney engines on Airbus-powered aircraft. This negatively impacts their day-to-day operations. While the third quarter performance for the low-cost unit was poor, the expectation is, unfortunately, that will continue. The chief financial officer flagged the continued rise of fuel prices and engine availability. These are two fundamental causes for concern that is slated to impact their fourth quarter performance. Away from aircraft, Spirit warned that they'll also continue to see discounted fares for travel booked through to the pre-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving period. In an earnings release and with the quotes, executives really highlighted that they will be evaluating their future growth profile and competitive position. This review is going to be hugely important as they'll need to potentially tinker with aircraft deliveries. Additionally, there could be a view to slow down capacity growth very soon to combat the current effects that they're seeing as a company. Overall though, while it was a relatively negative quarter, they did welcome in some new aircraft and say goodbye to some older CEOs as part of the fleet transformation process. No doubt a watchful eye will be kept on Spirit over the coming months, especially with a lot of talk over that JetBlue tie-up that we may see get approved at some point. Over to German flag carrier Lufthansa and their Airbus A380s have returned to Los Angeles for the first time in many years. A return from the German flag carrier comes following the reintroduction of the world's largest passenger plane, a reintroduction that follows a long-term grounding. The Airbus A380 operated a Munich to Los Angeles flight with the inbound aircraft touching down at around 3:20 p.m. local time. Previously, Lufthansa had deployed its Airbus A350 on the route, as well as the 747-8 during times 2. However, the stature of the Airbus A380s and its significant capacity increase meant that adding it to the Los Angeles route was just a natural decision. There was a lot of uncertainty, as you may recall, around the status of the A380 within the Lufthansa fleet. The carrier went as far as announcing its retirement during the height of the pandemic. Now, yes, they were definitely not the only carrier that announced their retirement, but they were an airline that seemed pretty adamant initially that they wouldn't need the plane to return back to service. Instead, they were favoring utilization of twin-engine wide-bodies to meet demand as that slowly returned, but ultimately we know what would happen, and that is demand would surge back far quicker than anyone would have been able to anticipate at one point. And for Lufthansa, it was left scrambling to find a means to meet such capacity. Well, in comes the world's largest passenger plane, the A380, an aircraft that seemingly at one point had no future in the Lufthansa group, but was reactivated to meet rising demand, and that wasn't the only reason. For Lufthansa, their frustrations over acquiring next-generation wide-bodies that should have replaced the A380 have also been more than present. Notably, you may recall the carrier should have expected its first 777X at the beginning of this decade. However, thanks to many delays with the certification process, Boeing has adjusted its EIS, that being the entry into service date, to 2025, and that will be even later for some airlines. We're talking a 5 to 6 year delay, which definitely negatively impacts customers' future route planning and retirement strategies too. And really for Lufthansa, they've had a bit of a tough time of it when it comes to acquiring new aircraft, with them selecting seemingly every wide-body program that has had issues. This includes your types such as the 787 Dreamliner and the A350, which, yes, have had staggered arrivals, but have certainly not had the routine deliveries that maybe Lufthansa would have liked. As a result, in a way to combat this for the short term, well, they've been forced to use their older, less fuel-efficient types. But for lovers of the quad-engined and wide-body, it does mean it will live on at least a little bit longer in the fleet. That is going to conclude today's aviation news recap. Any thoughts, and you are more than welcome to drop them down below in the comments. Thanks a lot for your continued support here. I do really appreciate it and hope you are enjoying the long-form aviation coverage. Take care, be safe. I'll see you in the same place tomorrow at the same time for your latest industry recap.
And we'll fly.